Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. I'm actually excited about this unboxing today because this is the new PARD 007S. I've been using the PARD 007A for a few months and I very much like it, but one thing you've got to factor in is the physical size of it between the scope and your head. And the S has changed that by physically making itself smaller because the battery, which is still an 18650 flat top, is stored vertically in the side here rather than linear along it. So if I put the A down there and I put the S on top, similarly the eyepiece to the eyepiece there, look how much space we're saving here. It's about 30 to 40 millimeters, I would estimate. The fitting system is still the same. It's an aluminium collar that clamps onto your scope tube. So I'll just put those back to one side and concentrate on the S now. So what's in the box? Well, we've got the unit itself, and in the box we have got the collar that goes on your scope. Looks like we've now got some plastic inserts which will actually compensate for different scope diameters, which look very good. And there is also still the black electrical insulation tape, which does give you excellent, it seems a little bit basic, but it actually fits incredibly well, and it also protects the ocular body on your scope from any physical marks or scratches. Charging cable is described. We've got a few accessories, O-rings here, some small Allen keys, fitting and fixing. The usual instruction book, which, do you know what, is actually an instruction book, and they are generally quite good on the PARDs. But we're not going to look at that because you can read that anywhere online, quite likely. So I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking about it immediately. Gets a storage bag, which has been quite handy for keeping the other ones in. So let's just look at that in a minute. Now, the essential function of it is it's a 1080p sensor which will work in daylight or darkness, and it's running a 1024 by 768 OLED sensor inside. And you can see the sensor screen here. Now that is not going to be affecting the reticle in your scope, and it's not going to be affecting zero in any way. So once you've put this collar on and mounted it securely, it doesn't really matter because all you're using is an electronic eye rather than your own eye, and you're not going to affect zero at all, and you've still got the full mechanical functional capabilities of your scope now with additional IR for daylight, darkness, or you can use it just for videoing if you want to video with it. Physically looking at it, we've got Concertina Bellows eye cup here. We'll have the screen focusing there, which is nice and smooth and firm. Control buttons are on top here in front of your face, so they're quite easy to see, they're easy to use, and they don't get accidentally snagged. On-off button there, and there is also now a small piece of what looks like Picatinny or Weaver mount there to fit an additional illuminator on. That is a key factor because most people want to extend the distance of night shooting, and all these have an included illuminator here which you can see. It'll give you about 100 meters of one of these, and this is an 850 nanometer unit, so it is visible IR as they call it. The bigger illuminators always give you more distance. I don't think anybody's shy of saying that because they are physically larger and you can't fit all that functionality into a tiny little illuminator as you see on the top here. So that's the screen inside, well that's the actual sensor deep inside there, that's a protective screen for it. I'll just use, there's a collar here in front of me, so to explain how it works, that you build up the diameter of your scope tube as required. You can actually get additional collars to go on all different rifles, so you can have one PARD for all your guns. And that will click on somewhere here, clip. So once it's on, that's how it goes. I will be fitting this to a rifle and using it, don't worry about that. You've got, this looks like the new focusing dial on the side here for your distance focusing through the scope, which I rather like. That compensates basically for this focusing on your scope, which of course has inbuilt eye relief, etc. So we'll be looking at this in more detail, but I am physically excited about this. I will look forward to using it, and I'm going to get out with the rim fires and the centre fires and do some foxing with it because it looks to be exactly functionally the same as the 007A, which I loved, yet it compensates for that one slight drawback: it's physically smaller. Just looking at a couple of the other elements, we've got a tripod mount there because you can use these as night vision spotters and cameras as well. Inside you've got micro SD card slot, USB charging cable. That cable looks like some kind of immediate visual cable, but you probably won't use that slot. The USB-C pretty much covers everything from charging to transfer, things like that, and of course you can take the micro SD card out and put it in your SD card slot in a PC, or adapter for phones and tablets and things like that. So what else can I tell you about it? Well, we can have a look in the instructions and see what it says. And for all those people who think I'm some kind of don't use glasses, there we go, reading glasses me. So turn on, turn off, sleep, wake up mode, eyepiece adjustment, objective lens focusing, IR fill the brilliance. You use the IR basically, it's got like a little telescope adapter here, so you can change the beam and spot size, and you can also change the intensity on the buttons. Looking through the back, we can record video on them, which luckily, you know, a lot of people like to do, and it does make it quite comparable with other units. All the adjustment details for zeroing them. They're actually, well, really setting up actually, because you don't have to zero these, of course. Ruling out zeroing an electronic sight is a major step forward, because they can be all quite complicated, so not having to do that does make life a lot simpler. Brightness, you've got various brightness keys. Brightness of the IR, which of course changes your range a bit, depends whether the animals are wary of IR or not. Loop recording, that essentially means you can, you know, run it either for leaving 5 or 10 minutes and it'll just keep looping around, so you don't have to stop and start. Time and date stamp, pre-record, reticle center position adjustment. That's if it looks a little bit out of line. You might need it, you might not. I've never used that actually, so I don't really mind. Default colours. Colour, day, black, white mode. For night vision, day mode is obviously full colour. You'll have probably seen my videos on my channel where I've got some full colour footage using them, and you'll see night vision footage where I was using it on the Steyr for foxing. Date, time, stamp, record, beep, sounds, format. You know, you can chew through the instructions at your will. But essentially, here's some of the specifications and features. So, it tells you about the battery type, 18650, dimensions, magnification. This is a 4:14 times, and that's obviously on top of essentially what is your base magnification optically through your rifle scope. This is the 850nm unit, and 940 is available. I prefer 850 to be honest. My animals don't seem that spooky around here, and the IR illumination power is 5 watts. One would assume the dimensions are 102 by 75 by 118 millimeters. Adapter size is 45 to 48 millimeters. Focusing is 3 centimeters to infinity. Of course, that's the focusing on the side here, and that focuses on the reticle within your rifle scope, which you need. So that's why it goes down to 3 centimeters. You can transmit Wi-Fi with it. Resolution here of the video is to 1920 by 1080. Weighs 265 grams, and these things, you just don't notice them on the rifle, because with them going between your hands, essentially in front of your eye, they don't really alter balance too much. PARD estimate, the eye will illuminate to 200 meters. I'll try that, but generally speaking, usability is, I would call it rimfire 17 HMR range, maybe maximum. I don't mind that at all. Frame rate is 30 frames per second. Normal television, or as we used to have television, was 25 frames per second. Fluorescent lighting is 50 frames per second or 50 hertz. So we are used to that. It doesn't really affect us, and it does mean you get a nice fluid picture, and you don't get too much latency, which might upset things. A few little factors to talk about that I've found using the PARD 007 in the past. This side focusing here is a little bit easier than using the underside, twin side here. It's part of it being more compact, of course. And the other thing is, these buttons on the back are very accessible in use, just the same as they were on the previous 007A. So I am again a fan of that. I'll double check eye relief, but I think it's 35mm, and the recoil capability of it is up to a 308. To be fair, in the UK, I don't think anybody's particularly going to be using a 308 with one of these, because, you know, for foxing, 243 is about what we normally use. That's the physical capability of the unit. That applies nothing to the eye relief factor, which at about 35 or 40mm, I'll have to double check on that. But okay, you've physically got that, you know, 35mm from your eye. Do you want a 308 and it's in contact? Do you really want a 308 thumping that? Because a 243 will give you a bit of a tap. 223, 22, 250 is pretty much nothing, and a rimfire is pretty much nothing either. But the 308, it's going to give you a bit of a nudge. So although the unit's capable of 308 levels of recoil, would you actually want to use one? Now, you've probably just seen me take my glasses on and off. These are just reading glasses, but I can actually see the full display with that just touched onto my glasses. And without my glasses, which I don't need for shooting, I am immersed in the full internal screen shape. So I'm not having to kind of squeeze in or look into the corners to try and find the displays. The power button is on the top here. I've yet to investigate all this because I've just unboxed it in front of you, and I don't like reading instructions. I'll refer to instructions if I really need them, but essentially I quite like things to look fairly simple and look fairly clear. So on the back, looks like we've got the day-night mode vision there with the IR strength. Looks like brightness there. That centre button looks like camera or video capability. And the bottom here, we've got plus or minus something, Wi-Fi something. The menu system's there, so if I just click on the menu system, see if that does anything straight in front of me. I do love live videos. Yep, that brings the menu up, which we can then operate pretty much with these other keys, which appear to be functioning quite simply like cursor keys. So we've got reticle center position, pre-record, default color, brightness of IR, screen brightness, auto recording, loop recording, date, stamp. So that covers pretty much the bases, and of course I'll investigate that in more detail as we get to it. So there we go. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. Your comments are driving what drives the video. Thank you to Sportsman Gun Centre sending this for me, and Merry Christmas to everybody, because this will be, well, perhaps it might even be my Christmas present to myself. Just for a little bit of clarity on the price of these, retail price is £535. I suspect that's going to appear very, very good value, because the key thing about this is you do not have to mess around re-zeroing rifles, and you can use it on multiple rifles, because once those collars are on, which are available as separate parts, you do get one with it, you just clip it on, clip it off, and you never have problems with zero, because that is effectively using a digital eye instead of your normal eye, and your normal eye is looking at the screen on this. So nothing is mechanically misaligned or altered. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.